Hi, and welcome to Assignment 14, where you'll have an opportunity to examine performance task scoring guides and to actually think about how these assessment tasks are going to be evaluated. After you do that, you'll have an opportunity to discuss with your colleagues. Let's get started. The first step here is to click Sample Items for ELA. We've been here multiple times. And remember, we're going up here to this menu at the top of the page, and we're going to look at the performance task that we looked at before. In this case, that is garden. So come over here and click garden, and it should bring up a copy of the PDF file like this. So we have our student directions here. We looked at those earlier, but what we're doing this time is looking at the rubric. So we're going to keep scrolling down until we get to the rubric. Scroll, and there it starts on page 10 of this particular item. One of the things that we're asking you to do here is to just make observations about the rubric and then think about how this level of scoring differs from the current way that the assessments are scored, that sort of right-wrong paradigm, or one score for a piece of written text. And in order to help you think about that, we've provided a note sheet for you in the Schoology area. You can see, you can click it there, you can download a copy, print it, handwrite on it, type directly into it. Remember, if you're using an iPad, you need to do this on paper because the Word document doesn't show up. Or it shows up, you just can't interact with it. Let's go back to our assessment. And we're going to just look at the rubric and make some observations about it and record those observations on our note sheet. One of the things that we're noticing as we look at this rubric is that the scoring guides are aligned directly to the intellectual work that students are asked to do. And that intellectual work relates directly to the claims and targets, which you'll learn about in another part of this module. So I'm seeing here, students, the response gives sufficient evidence of the ability to evaluate the credibility, completeness, relevancy, and or accuracy of the information and sources. That's something that relates directly to that intellectual work that students need to be able to do and demonstrate. If you scroll down a little bit more, we see there's also a use of evidence rubric. So there's another piece that connects directly to the intellectual work that students need to do. So that's something that I recorded on this note sheet here. Something else that I recorded on the note sheet is that I'm noticing there are rubrics for different skills. Instead of just getting one score for a piece of written work, students are getting scores based on what skills they demonstrate. So it might be that they are very strong at demonstrating one skill and they need a little bit more support in demonstrating another skill. Of course, that gives us as teachers really valuable information to support our students. The way that that's different from the traditional right-wrong paradigm that we exist in currently is that on traditional test items, multiple choice items, there's only one right or wrong answer. There isn't a range of what's possible. But with these scoring guides, you can see there's definitely a range of what's possible. And even in the case of writing, this type of scoring doesn't give a holistic score. Instead, the scoring gives us precise information about where students' proficiency lies on a variety of skills, which is a little bit different than what our writing scores currently give us. So that's something that's different about language arts. Once we're done looking at language arts, we're going to ask you to go back to math. So you can do that by clicking this link, Sample Items Math. And again, we will hover our mouse over that top menu and we'll look at the performance task that we looked at earlier, which is field trip. So go ahead and click on that. We also have a copy of it here. The scoring guide for field trip starts on page 8. We're going to look at this in the same way that we looked at the language arts and take notes in the same way that we took notes on the language arts task. So we're looking at what we observe and then how that's different from what's currently done. One thing that I'm noticing here is that there are multiple correct answers for each score point. So right here, students get full credit for doing one of two things, either correctly answering zoo based on total first place votes for the survey, or correctly answering aquarium based on total first and second place votes, or on correctly answering science museum based on a weighted total for votes. So as you can see, this gives 3 possible scenarios that students can actually answer correctly instead of just one right or wrong answer. There's also, if I'm looking at this, there's also possibility for students to be awarded points for success at various portions of the task, not just for the right or wrong answer, but also there's an acknowledgement of process. So that's an observation that I'm making too. When I think about how that's different from what's currently done in math assessments, currently on our standardized assessment, there's just a right or wrong answer. There's no room for correct process. And there's certainly no room for multiple answers. There's only one right or wrong answer. There's also an expectation that students actually show how they arrive at an answer. It doesn't matter if they can just answer an item correctly. They also have to show that process in order to get awarded full credit for this, which is a huge shift from what students have been typically asked to do on standardized assessments. Once you are finished looking at these tasks and the scoring rubrics, we're going to ask you to go back to Schoology, and if you click the next button, it will take you into the discussion forum. Once you're in the discussion forum, this is a place for you to discuss with your colleagues about what you've learned and how this is going to impact the work that you do in your classroom. You can respond in a couple of different ways, by either typing in this comment box or by just having a discussion with people at your site. Either way, it's totally up to you, whatever supports your learning the best. Hope you enjoyed exploring these performance task scoring guides.